You're listening to Were You Still Talking? We're going on too long. We need to get into...
Oh, sorry.
It's not your fault. Hey, welcome back. It is Where You're Still Talking, and this is Joel Albrecht again. Today in my studio, I have April Yanko. She's an actor, writer, overall weirdo. She lives in Los Angeles, recently a transplant from Pittsburgh, where a bulk of her experience has taken place. She has made her TV debut. Try again. I won't edit this. This is behind the scenes stuff. You love this, don't you?
Yes.
I made my TV debut on the Reelz. She made her TV debut on the Reelz Channel, playing serial killer Karla Homolka, where she was flown to Dallas to shoot for 4 days. She's been a brand ambassador for different companies in Pittsburgh and LA, working many live events, also birthday party princess, working mostly as Rapunzel and Anna. She's done commercial shoots, model shoots, voiceover gigs, a whole ton of jobs within the acting field, and of course, gathered many stories along the way. April, how you doing? How are you today?
I'm well. How are you, Joel?
Doing okay. I'm wearing my Hawaii shirt because it's hot, so it's not just because I'm old.
I recently just got my air conditioner fixed, so it's like pretty chilly in my house, and I'm like, this is delightful because usually it's awful and hot and gross. So yes, we're dressed a little oppositely today.
Oh yeah, so you are. You do have a sweater on. I live in Oregon, so we don't have air conditioning.
Well, my mom was always very, very. I suppose the word is stingy with air conditioning, but if you've ever been to Pennsylvania, the summertime is always very like, it's not the heat, it's the humidity. So the humidity makes it hot, wet, hard to breathe, I'm going to go with. Like, it's just very unpleasant. And the air conditioner definitely helps that, but it's expensive to run. So we're just like an oscillating fan home, one oscillating fan, very not good. A very sweaty time in Pennsylvania I had many a summer.
We do have air conditioning here. I guess I said that kind of wrong. Oregonians can get air conditioning. It's not that small. Mostly we don't need it. I have a portable one because I've done had some studio sessions where I needed air conditioning before, with other people in here. But yeah, I had 5 fans going this morning. It's going to be in the 90s, which is rare. It's probably going to be hotter than that there.
I'm sure. I know recently we've been getting, in LA, it's been getting like 100, 95, 100. And I'm like, ugh, of course. I'm glad I'm inside. I don't like sun.
We lived in Mission Hills for a long time. And one summer, it was over 100 for like 2 months straight. So it was breaking the 100 mark, and we had air conditioning, but it was really old, so it was extremely expensive. So, we tried not to run it all the time, but yeah, that's the main.
Brutal.
It was, but then again, we love the heat. We're nuts. We're nutcases. We really like the heat. So
I've just never been. I mean, I also don't like cold, but I like very neutral. Like if I can avoid the sun, I am going to. Like, this is how I would be dressing on the beach if I was forced to go to the beach. I don't like the beach.
Too much sand and sun and
too much sun and
water.
Yeah, I just don't like that. I don't know. Inside is nice. This sort of lockdown thing is good for me because I like an excuse to have to stay inside instead of.
Oh, okay. Well, that's understandable. But you're living in the wrong city.
I understand that. I understood that through moving here, I was going to have to battle my longtime foe, the sun. But it's okay. It's not the worst. I keep inside as much as I can. Don't like. It's avoidable. Sunscreen, that's good too. I'm definitely that person that will wear a hoodie, in the really, really hot weather when I'm outside, just to keep covered so I don't have to put like, yeah, that sort of stuff. But anyway.
Well, it's really fashionable to wear big hats again. You can wear the big sun hat.
I
that's in
mean,
vogue again.
I could do the big sun hat. I used to help my dad mow the lawn at my mom's house, and I would wear a big sun hat. And I mean, like, I would always just wear like whatever lightweight, long clothing I could get, and also the hat. And I looked like a total loser, but I mean, I don't know. I guess it wasn't a big deal. I was just mowing the lawn.
Yeah, exactly. No one's going to see that.
No.
I prefer to mow the lawn in just shorts and a pair of shoes. That's my favorite. I don't like clothes. That's why I like the heat.
I also don't like clothes, but I can do not clothes in the house.
In the house, yeah.
The opposite is not good when you are outside and people are like, whoa.
People frown on it. Yeah, people frown on it when you're...
Yes, they do. They tend
but
to...
But soon, well, I mean, the way things are going, I don't know if anyone will notice in a couple more weeks. There's the kitty.
Yes, here's
there
Artie.
That
was his butt. I think we saw a nice visual of his butt. I'm putting him down because he gets into the window and he wags his tail and he moves the blinds all around and then they make a lot of noise. So we don't need that. No, we do not. Good boy.
Well, now when I post this on YouTube, I can say it's a cat video, and so it'll get tons of hits. Yeah, it's a cat video. Yeah.
He's just...
Everyone loves a cat video.
He's getting antsy when, like, he's like, ooh, you're doing something, but you're not interacting with me. How can I be involved? And it's, like, very sweet, but also sometimes a little, like, gotta be quiet. This is... Oh, here. He's accessing the window from where I can't reach him. We'll see if I have to move him. Anyway.
So is it just you and the cat?
My boyfriend lives here as well. His name is Justin. He is currently resting. We are on sometimes opposite schedules. Sometimes he works doing like Grubhub stuff. There was a time during the beginning, more so the beginning of quarantine, where he and I together would go do like Shopify, the different apps where you shop for somebody else.
Oh, right.
And because that was becoming very lucrative, and now the food delivery apps are a little better. So, and that's just like a one-person job. So I stay home, do other types of work to help pay our bills, and then also balance work with like, work on myself.
Well, that for your industry, for what you do, that's a big part of it. People probably don't realize back before you were born, they had studio. There was something called studios, and they had contracts. People would have a contract at a studio, and a big part of their job was literally to take care of themselves. They would have to go to swimming. They would have to go to ballet classes, all these different things. So that's a big part of the craft, as they put it. The craft.
The craft. Yeah, it is a big part of that. And I mean, I think more so what I'm spending time on isn't necessarily craft, like practice, but business related to the industry, like getting materials of mine in order, promoting myself, researching people that I might need to know in the future, and then like trying to make connections with those people, like all that kind of stuff. That's where a lot of my focus has been this past year living here in Los Angeles, because I'm a part of a group that focuses a lot on that, and I recognize that a lot of people can be like, very talented, so worthy of, getting into the projects that they audition for, but you have to be able and capable. That's the same thing. You have to be like business savvy as well as savvy with your talent. because that's going to really set you apart and save a lot of time just spinning my wheels.
I think that makes really good sense. Actually, it's something I noticed when I was researching you. In other words, looking on the internet, that you do a lot of self-promotion stuff, which I know, I mean, I know from my own experience, I really have a hard time with it. And I think a lot of creative people have a really hard time with it. What have you always done that? Has that just come natural, or have there been people that have kind of said, you really ought to do more of this or more of that, or?
Well, it still definitely doesn't come like comfortably, I suppose. Like I always feel like when somebody has, some sort of a product, a business, a clear, shtick, I suppose, I feel like there are lots of models for like, oh, this person is like this person does fitness stuff. Okay, like what do I like to see when I'm doing fitness stuff? This is what I would do for my own. But when it comes to actor stuff, who are the actor people that I like to see? Oh, well, they're the people who I know from TV. They're the people that people are following because they're, popular. They've like got that audience. They've pulled you for whatever reason, and now you just are interested in the things that they do. So I think about like, okay, well, what can I do to make some random person be like, oh, hey, you're not just some person that's like posting a bunch of random pictures of yourself, like, whatever. Because that, to me, like, that's just not very fun and not very interesting. And also, I feel like I don't know if I could do that a lot and like feel like I'm not being satirical, I guess, in some way, like, because I don't know, it's just
Sure.
not fun to do that.
Yeah.
It feels creepy in a way to me, and I don't know what that says, but so instead, I've been like, okay, I have to share something. Like that's an element of the industry that is important to some people, but also can help me make connections that I was talking about before. So that's when I was like, okay, I can start making videos and stuff that I had the part in, like made myself, wrote, and then acted in and edited now too, because I'm starting to just do all the things for myself, which is fine. It's good. It feels good to not rely on somebody else to get my things finished. But that has helped me be able to, kind of show that, oh, like, what have you been doing for the past year? Like, what have you done with your life? And it's not like, oh yeah, this is like my end game, but this is a good way to constantly be, in some sort of a, like, I'm always like kind of doing something. And so I'm never getting like rusty.
Oh, right. Yeah. And I think that's really important. I have an audition. It's kind of an open audition thing, but it's a pretty big one, or it could be. Nice. So I mean, I'm trying not to get too nervous about it, but I also think of it as any time I audition, I think it's also doing what I like to do. I mean, people sometimes think of audition as different than actually doing a part, but it's the same thing, and you get to, in this particular instance, I get to pick the part, which is kind of fun. It's tough too, because I'm very self-critical. So it's hard to pick it says, pick the part you'll be best at. I'm like, I don't know what I'll be best at. So it's hard, but it's like you're saying, it's working on what I do, it's working on acting, and this podcasting has also been surprisingly helpful that way, therapeutic, and there's more, like, I'm using more of my acting skills than I ever would have imagined. I don't just jump in here and start talking. I have to have an idea and get ready for it and put on my costume, which is
your costume.
But that's my costume, so I look like a podcast.
That guy looks like he's on vacation. No, wait. He's wearing headphones. I know what he's doing.
Exactly. And these days, everyone's so used to seeing the Zoom image, so it's handy. It's much less expensive than it used to be. But there was something I was going to ask you related to what you were talking about, and now I completely spaced it.
No.
I can't remember what it was, but I'll just go with what's been your sort of most influential training. I've noticed you've done a lot of different training in acting. What has helped you the most, or is it all of it?
Everything. Just no, that's not a helpful answer. I think well, I suppose two elements of training that I've had helped me a lot. The first one was when I transferred to the school I graduated from, Point Park in Pittsburgh. That was where I really got to work with a lot of film students. I had done film prior to transferring, but because there was an actual film program, and then also just in the city, there were a lot of people making their own things that I could also audition for. I was able to not only get, like footage for my reel and make those friendships with other people in that department, but also like, wow, I'm getting like a lot of practice. I'm learning how to be on a set, what things people say to you on a set, and like what's expected of me, like that sort of stuff that's nice to learn in a not high stakes situation, although I'm sure a lot of the students would disagree that the stakes were very high for them. So it feels it felt like a good place to grow. So that in a way isn't necessarily my tutelage, because that wasn't required of me to participate in those, but it definitely it just helped a lot and helped me get a leg up and confidence too, to know that when I will be on sets, whether they are, casual or professional and nerve-wracking, I still know that I can bring it, and I can rely on myself for that. The second thing I did was I went to the National Theater Institute at the Eugene O'Neill Theater Center, and that was very hectic. Definitely, there was a lot of like injuries happen to people.
Injuries?
Yes, I had a concussion during that, and other people got injuries and stuff too. Just there were
a lot of stage fighting.
Some happened during a stage combat final. Some during movement classes of sorts. Just there were a lot of people. It was bound to happen. But anyway, it was the schedule was very we would start our classes at 7 a.m. The last class of our day, they were all planned for us, but the last class was at 10, was supposed to finish at 10 p.m. Sometimes would go later. Then we'd have homework the next day, get up at 7 for 7 a.m. again. So, underslept a lot, but it was helpful to learn about all of the different elements of creating theater. And it was helpful to feel capable of doing so, not just I haven't really experienced directing before. Now I have to, hey, this isn't as, maybe I shouldn't have doubted myself, that sort of thing. And of course, directing for theater is very different from directing for film, but similar things apply. And I guess the ultimate takeaway from so much of this is that I was able to, have these trial runs and experience things and be like, wow, everything doesn't that I want to try, I'm not going to be super sucky at. So I can take more chances and be okay with, occasional failures, but also feel pretty proud of the work that I'm going to take the effort to make. Yeah, that sort of thing.
Well, I think that's I think that's extremely valuable. I've made kind of a lot of industrials and small films and short films, and it really makes a difference when you go on a more professional set. And I've also noticed that there's not a ton of difference. Um, you have kind of all the same people no matter what level you're at. I mean, at the real beginning level, you have one person doing everything, and then you're the actor. But
Yeah.
if you go on a set that has, but if you go on a set that has, sound and script and a video, maybe a grip, it's the same at whether it's a no budget movie or a big budget movie. It kind of operates the same. So it really, I think, just the more sets you can be on, the more relaxed you can get with that whole idea, and with someone screaming action and cut and things like that, which I still think it's funny that people still do that, because I was watching an old interview with now I'm spacing his name, an old oh boy, I'm totally spacing the actor's name. He's only one of the biggest actors in the world. Anyway. No, not Tom Hanks, but he would probably say the same thing. Oh gosh, Clint Eastwood, who's now one of the biggest directors in the world. When he started out, he would be sitting on a lot of horsebacks, and he was sitting on horseback with this one film, and the director yelled action, and the horses jump. So they did that over and over, and he said maybe not yell action when we're sitting on horses, and nobody listened to him. So it's just an interesting story, because he's one of the few, I guess, that says, all right, go ahead. Okay, let's stop there. And I always wonder, it's like that totally changes what you're doing as an actor, right? I mean, you must know that being on sets. If someone you get really tense if someone says action. You get this thing called red light fever. That's what we call it in recording. And you kind of go, what? And, if someone just kind of goes, oh, we've been filming for 10 minutes, then you don't get that.
Yeah. Well, something I recognize, like, I was like, okay, don't do this, because it's sometimes easy to, is I've trained myself, like, to, I mean, it sounds really silly, but like, don't move until I hear action, or somebody ahead of time is like, okay, I'm not going to say that, I'm going to say, like, whenever you're ready or something. But definitely been on sets with actors who, like, the director's just like giving the commands to the various other people, and he might say something, or she might say something that was not cool of me, I guess, but they might say something that is like a command to somebody else, but kind of sounds like it might be to you, and then you don't move on your action, and they have to reset. And I mean, it's small, but it's something that when you're in the moment, I know, like, sometimes it's like, oh, hey, yes, it's time. And then you, like, kind of go for it, and you're like, wait, no, stop. And, like, I definitely have been like, okay, I just need to listen for this one thing. I just need for this one thing. Shouting action always is a little peculiar. Like, it's never fun to be on those kind of sets that makes it feel like you're with somebody who's, like, really full of themselves and is like,
right. I guess that's a big part of it. Yeah.
I mean, not to, like, be mean to other actors, but I've definitely, like, during school especially, felt more of, like, like, a kinship between me and people who are working behind the scenes, because there tends to be less egos there, and, like, it's more fun to be kind of, you can be goofy with people in that way. And of course, many actors are capable, of course, of, like, being not so serious about what they're doing, but just, I guess, through doing stage stuff and through doing film stuff, I feel like it's just it's fun to be on the film set more, because it just tends to feel like more friendliness is there and more goofiness is there, and there's just more time to be kind of really stupid. make friends through that sort of shared bond, and the stakes are just different, I guess, in theater stuff. But yeah, I don't know if that makes sense, but hopefully it
That makes sense to me. It totally makes sense to me. That's what I was. Yeah, that's what I was. That reminds me of something else you were talking about. The difference between directing theater and directing film.
Yeah.
And yeah, I have noticed from what I think is that, and I've noticed this from directors I've worked with, directing theater. This actually surprised me because I hadn't done plays in a while, and then I did a couple, and they get it. They get you to the point of performance, and they walk away. And it's like, it's your show. I'm a couple times I'm like, are you sure? Okay, I'll take it. Bye bye. And then it's the opposite with film. It's like they're directing you when you're in the scene, but once you're done, then they take it, and it could be completely different than what you thought. In a lot of cases, it's been better. So I've been like, I see the finished product, and I'm like, oh wow, I didn't know I did that.
Yes.
That's great.
I definitely when I made my first short that I directed, I worked with another friend of mine who I met through him directing me, and so we did technically we co-directed, but mainly I was like, I feel confident on the acting, coach the actor kind of side,
Mhm.
but I recognize that, of course, while the stage director is the one who ultimately should be making final decisions on their vision and what other people would be bringing to them, as the film director, you are just in charge of being a little more of a captain all the time.
Right.
And
Right.
of course, more prep work and being very prepared going into the shoot, which I've definitely been in the experience where people just I don't know, they just fucking forgot that they needed to have a shot list or something like that. But that sort of thing is okay, I need to be prepared. I need to make sure that whoever is coming to my set feels like they have a good person at the head. And just wanting to earn respect of people and not just expect it, I suppose. Because that's what I would want if I was when I am the actor, or if I'm helping in some other fashion, which I don't always end up doing because, but if I need to, if somebody needs help, I can do it. But, you want to feel like somebody has their shit together. And, it's just,
Oh yeah.
Okay, what would I want? That's what I should do.
Yeah, that's totally true. I mean, that's how it has. That's always been my experience. If I show up and you can tell in about 10 minutes what's going on that set. You can really, in 10 minutes or so, you're like, oh man, these guys got it. They know what they're doing. They're showing me a shot list and saying, this is what we're going to do. Because there's plenty of other sets where you show up and they're head scratching. You're there and they're scratching their head and you're like, uh-oh, this is not really a good sign. But I've been on, especially commercials, when you show up to a commercial that I've done commercial shoots where they have no time and there's money on it. And they're just like, we're doing this, this, and this. Stand over there. Yeah. Glad you showed up. Here you go. These are your 5 lines. You got it? Good. Here we go. And it also, it's interesting how what I always think of, what I'm always blown away by is that someone who's directing a much bigger movie than I've been involved in so far, they have to know all this technical stuff that,
yeah.
It's like you gotta know it all. Even on a small scale, it sure helps because I've seen plenty of directors who don't understand sound, camera, lighting, background. They don't quite get that. They just want to direct something. They just want to make something, and so they skip that whole step. And it's like when you're directing, whether it's video or anything on camera. Yeah. There's so much more to it. It's just, there's so much more to it. It's mind-boggling.
And that's why it's definitely helpful to have a crew of people that, what I found is having a crew that I not only is obviously competent, but that I feel comfortable saying I don't know to, instead of oh yeah, pretending and trying to weasel my way through something. It's a bit, it's scary. And then you definitely, when you're starting out, have that imposter syndrome. And I know I still experience it. And that's why it's fun to work with people that I already feel comfortable with, because I can feel more relaxed. And so then, you broaden your horizons, you meet new people and try taking chances on working with other people in other projects. But I mean, that's clearly a reason why people in our industry, that people listening would know, a lot of people kind of stick with their group because they know them, they enjoy spending time with them, they know like what they're about on sets, they know how they write, they know how they act, they know what they're getting into, and they want to have that experience again. So they're like, yeah, we'll make more stuff with you in mind. Like the Seth Rogen group, for example, you often see a lot of the same people between him and Evan Goldberg, like, that sort of thing. And that's something that you can definitely see popping up in the smaller communities, like in Pittsburgh, of course. I recognize Pittsburgh is a not as huge of a film town. People there might tell you differently.
Yeah, I think I know of a very big actor that might have something to say about that.
Well,
his name's Will something. Will, isn't he from Pittsburgh?
Will from Pittsburgh. I know Will Smith filmed that concussion movie that came out a few years ago there.
Yeah, I thought he was from there.
I thought he was from Philadelphia.
Oh, Pittsburgh, Philadelphia. Sorry. Yes, you're right.
No,
Philadelphia.
There's definitely like Michael Keaton, Gene Kelly, Zachary Quinto, Christina Aguilera. People are from Pittsburgh, but in Pittsburgh, the film scene itself is, of course, a lot of independent projects, and there are some equity theaters that exist and are very active. But when it comes to the bigger films being filmed there, they're not necessarily casting. They will like try to cast local, of course, but somebody like me, for example, living in Los Angeles, can be a local hire in Pittsburgh. That still counts as from Pittsburgh, because local hire is the local hire term is it's not the best in a way, because it's like you would be like, so if I was like, oh, like Joel can be a local hire on this thing in Los Angeles, okay, cool. That would mean you would be getting your way to the set. So
right. Right.
Yeah. So like in a way, it's a little like, oh, I have to pay a bit to do this. Okay. And because you say like, oh, I'm a local hire, that implies that you have an address in that location. So you don't need to be put up in a hotel, that sort of a thing. But, I still can say that. And so I can try to get, I still have an agent in Pittsburgh. I can still audition for things there and be treated as if I still live there. It's kind of cool. But also, how many things are being filmed in Pittsburgh compared to how many things are being filmed here in Los Angeles, or in like Atlanta, or in New York, or New Mexico? I mean, there's a lot of bigger, still small, but bigger places. And I do feel like when I did move out here, it was definitely like weird and a lot bigger, of course, but you experience the smaller pond and try to like master it, if you will, and then bring what you learn to the bigger one and try to recognize that it's all like the same kind of stuff, just like different people in those positions.
Right. That's a good way to look at it. And since moving out there, are you still doing theater there? Are you mostly focused on film? Are you focused on commercial? Does it who cares? And do you have more than one agent? Do you have a commercial agent and another agent, or do you have an agent that covers that all?
Well, right now, so my coach in the program that I'm involved in, Career Activate, my coach's name is Rachel, and our focus first and foremost is more on voiceover agents and a commercial agent. There's a theatrical agents are more difficult for someone like me to get, not being SAG eligible yet. I've done SAG projects, some here in Pittsburgh too. However, some of them ended up biting off more than they can chew and did not turn their paperwork in, and therefore I did not get any. I didn't get paid, but also I didn't get the credit that one must get and collect to become a union actor. So, which, I mean, like, I have a bunch of experiences of like, oh, I was experiencing this thing. It seemed like it was going to go well, and then it didn't, and oh well. But, so I, being in lockdown and all that good stuff has inspired me, and Rachel has encouraged me to make my own project that I would put as a SAG project. I will work to make it a unionized experience. And so then I will make myself SAG eligible. So then I can go to those theatrical agents and present the one, perhaps, well, not the one most important thing, but a very important element of signing somebody, which is being either eligible to join the union or in the union already. Because so many things that a theatrical agent here would be sending me out for would require me to be in the union to participate in if I were cast. And of course you can Taft-Hartley somebody, an actor who is not union, but that requires it requires a justification to the union why this professional set picked me. I'm not necessarily an uncommon type to see. I don't have like a bunch of language experience that I can bring. Well, I'm a blonde white girl. So
really?
Really
I thought there's other people like that in Hollywood.
There are.
I'll be darned.
I will.
But most of them aren't real, are they?
Well, I guess I'm not sure. I guess I definitely do not see very many blonde people. I think the blonde, like, oh, there's so many blonde white girls. Like, there are definitely more brunette white girls. but still, the essence, I suppose, would be what I mean, like, does that make sense? Essence?
Yeah.
Okay. So
no, I understand. I'm just messing about. I understand. Understand what you're saying.
Because of that, because I don't necessarily have a collection of special skills. I mean, like, I do have some special skills, like bowling. Like, if they needed a bowler, that would be a reason to Taft-Hartley me and justify that we needed April because she can do this one specific skill that we couldn't find in somebody else. But if it wasn't for, like, you know, something more, no, it's just a co-star thing. She is a barista saying, here's your coffee. Like, oh, you couldn't find an actor that is in the union to do that? So that kind of makes it difficult. It puts me at a disadvantage. And also then whoever is the one, I guess I don't know who would be exactly in charge of doing the paperwork on my behalf, but that's more paperwork for them. Do they want to do more paperwork for somebody that when they can just not do more paperwork and hire a union person? I mean, maybe not. Maybe they do. I don't know. But, you know, screw it. I'm going to take it into my own hands and work on making something here. And, like, it's taking place on a thing like this, like a call. Of course, there's probably going to be so many things like that.
A thing like this, you mean a high-tech studio in a mansion?
Yes, I'm planning. I have other friends who, one of them lives here in Los Angeles. Two of them, one of them lives in Pittsburgh. One of them is currently with their family in Ohio, but her like location is New York, and the four of us are all trying to do the same thing, help our career by being capable of joining the union. And so we're going to try to do this together, which is definitely helpful because paperwork, insurance, that sort of stuff is a little confusing to me. And I've produced things before when I had to, just because if I didn't do it, nobody else would be doing it. But I definitely don't prefer producing. So if I can have somebody else help me when I'm like, what the hell does this mean? That's good. That's a good place to be.
Yeah, that's it's awesome that you're doing that. You're getting together with friends and doing a project. That's totally awesome. I'm always confused about the union thing, especially where I am, very small market. Portland, which is not far from me, was doing. They were doing a couple movies and 4 series at one point, not that long ago, and almost everyone was from LA. That was the interesting thing. Like the production was from LA, so all of the crew was from it. Well, there's really no crews in Portland. Not many. Not enough to crew that much. So most of the crews were from Portland. The main actors, LA. All the main actors from LA. All the guest stars were from LA. Now, that's what surprised me because Portland has tons of SAG actors. There's quite a few people who moved to Portland to get out of the rat race. And actually, we have one of the biggest actors in the world just up the road from us in a small town out in the country. So, but I guess it was just easier for them. Mr. Mustache.
Tom Selleck.
His name is Tom. Now I'm forgetting his name. He does Chevy ads and he has a really low voice and he played one of the Earps in oh man.
Now I'm thinking like Wilford Brimley.
No. Oh my gosh. Now I'm forgetting the name. Yeah. That's terrible. Plus I don't want to give away where he lives, even though there's been articles.
Well, this particular Tom might live at
he might live nearby here.
I don't know.
But I don't know. He's very famous for his voice.
But he's
anyhow.
not. But no.
I'm telling. No.
Yeah, I understand that that sort of thing happens. I know a friend of mine who was from Pittsburgh. He moved to Atlanta, and then after he moved to Atlanta, he was able to get a guest star on Mindhunter, which films in Pittsburgh. But and of course, Atlanta, Los Angeles, I understand they're different types of markets, but it does seem that by moving to, being a Los Angeles actor gives me a sort of, I don't know, professional air that literally just being here makes it seem like I'm fancier than I once was.
Well, it's
is that true? Sure.
Yes, it is. I'm sure your acting teachers have told you too. It's like if you want to be an actor, you live in LA or New York. If that's really your goal, you want to live in LA and New York. There's not a lot of professional acting elsewhere in the world unless you get in the Shakespearean Festival, which is in Ashland, Oregon, and those people have gotten a really lucky break. That's a very unique thing, but it's a professional theater company, and the people that get into it usually stay there 10 to 20 years. It's very amazing, and that's different. But most people, it's like if you want to be a musician, you go to Nashville or LA. It's like if that's your goal, you don't go to Oregon and start doing a podcast from your bedroom. My God.
Well, in all fairness, there was a time when it was like, okay, should I stay in Pittsburgh and try to, a thing that a lot of people there say are like, you don't want to move until you're invited to move, which is a very, of course, you want to be invited to move to Los Angeles because you already have somebody that wants you for some long-term experience. But how likely is that to happen? And it can happen depending on your skill set and the people that who live out here, who, like I was saying before, like you and want to work with you, and also have some sort of power of hiring where they can make that decision to help you relocate to the city. But is that, how often does that happen? I know sort of not quite the same story, but Mindy Kaling was, she wrote a play with another in a fringe festival in New York. Through having a very good experience there and winning different critical acclaim, she was able to take it to, I believe it was, she brought it to Los Angeles because somebody else was, like, oh yes, we will bring this here because it will do well. And through this whole experience is how she got to be a writer on The Office. She was offered to staff on that, and then we now know her because first of that, and then all the other things Mindy Kaling has done. So that sort of experience happens, but it didn't happen by her necessarily knowing people. It happened because she made something and people saw it and liked it. So that's why like, there are a lot of people who end up making things and people see them and people like them, and then they want to see more of that person. And so I'm like, okay, I'm going to try to do that. And that's why I've been taking writing classes, and that's why I've been working on my own shorts, and why I'm starting in pre-pro for this one. A lot of people here do say, like, oh yeah, there's like so much emphasis on creating your own work, and there definitely is. However, it's also, there's so many different paths, and not necessarily one career you can look at for that inspiration for, like, oh, okay, how did they do it? Well, okay, do I like make a play to be in a fringe festival? I guess I could. Do I, like Issa Rae, create a web series that gets traction and turns into my own HBO show? Like, of course, these are all like, big goals, but how can I set myself up now when I'm, even though I've been doing things for a while, how can I, when I'm still technically maybe considered green, how can I prove myself now? How can I expand my creative voice and do the projects I want to do to, get that attention from different people that I wouldn't have met if I hadn't tried. And then we'll hopefully, we can bond. We can make a thing together too. And then we, continue from there. That sounds very, maybe it's a little cliche, but it's a goal of mine to be able to make my own shows and have parts on them, but also have parts behind the scenes, be a showrunner, be a producer on my projects when I actually have the funds to do it because I have a studio helping me, that sort of a thing. Producing on your own stuff is hard sometimes because you look at what you need budget-wise and feel very deflated. But yeah, I know that was a long answer to the thing.
No, it's an interesting answer though. I've not. I think there's just more opportunity in LA or New York, and a lot of people in New York. A lot of people who are now famous. They were in New York. They were doing plays, and someone said, well, if you want to really get big, you're really good. You're going to need to go and get an agent in Los Angeles. And that, I think that's still the deal. It's fortunate now that we can do our own thing for very inexpensively. Now you can make, with basically an iPhone, but even an inexpensive camera, you can make a feature film looking piece. You can make something look really good and sound really good if you have some expertise, or your friends do, if your friends have some expertise, which didn't used to happen anymore. But I still think, I mean, I've said this before on my podcast, I still think that personally, a lot of it is still luck. Some people believe in luck, some people don't. I think some luck is made. You've got to be the right place, the right time. But if you are there, you still need a little bit of luck for that opportunity to come out and come to you. I mean, it's a tough business you've chosen. You might have heard that before. And very few people are making a good living in it. Very few people. So that's something you just have to understand too, and not really let that bother you. It's like, yeah, it's not. It's rare that people do well, but shouldn't keep you from doing exactly. I think you're doing a lot of the right things. The amazing thing about the union, last time I looked, I haven't looked for a while, but there was some reason that I was looking up union stuff, probably an audition or something. And on the union website, it said, basically, I'm paraphrasing here, don't join the union. It said...
Just that.
It said, don't join the union. If you're a working union actor, like if you have enough work that you can afford this, that you can pay this money every year because it's coming from your paycheck, then you should join. Otherwise, there's really no reason. And I think part of that is because they don't want a lot of non-working actors in the union. It probably looks bad for their stats as well. But, it's more, you talked about paperwork. It's like a lot of paperwork for the union to keeping track of actors that, maybe they haven't worked in 5 years. And the reason they're in there is because they had 2 projects. Like they had 2 parts in a TV series 5 years ago. So I think I'm always confused about the whole union thing. I think that's always confusing.
That is, I mean, that is a reason why the goal of mine is to become eligible, because then in the meantime, I can be doing other non-union things. And of course, there is a way, I don't remember what the term is, but there's something that you can become where you are able to do union and non-union work. That, I mean, not what I would like to do, but I guess an element of the industry that I think is misunderstood and is I find to be inspiring at times is that, like maybe there are few actors that make it, that become household names, but there are, I'd say, many actors who are able to make a living on what they do. That is definitely a reason why I like voiceover a lot, because voiceover is not only does it pay well, but it is relatively easy to create for other people. I mean, just last night, I do tutorials for a company in Pittsburgh, Vex Code Robotics. I read the tutorials for how to operate their different programs. They're all about coding for like younger audiences. So like, do I understand everything I'm reading? Definitely not. But it's very it's very simple. I do it in my bedroom, and my boyfriend, I could do this, but he helps edit them. And because it's not too hard to edit, I suppose, but, and we get paid very well, and that has been helping throughout this pandemic. And I'm having a great time. And also it's just like a cool company too, just like, because like it would have been fun when I was younger to be taught coding in school. Oh, you can see my kitty's head.
That's great. My wife's gonna like that.
He's super cute. He's just, I don't know, I hope he seems calm. I think he's gonna take a nap. Let's hope. But yeah, so I guess the point is, and like of course a lot of commercial opportunities are non-union. And of course, there are a lot of people competing for union things that are on shows that you would have heard of course. But now that also can be balanced with, oh, wow, there are so many new streaming platforms and therefore new shows. And because shows are more of a 10 to 12 episode season instead of maybe 22 episodes, there are more shows that are being made. And that means more writers are needed, more actors are needed, more, I mean, other things. Those are the things I do.
Right.
So that's what, but, and like, of course, there's, oh, I might sneeze. But of course there is like an element of, well, you know, if I was a writer and I got hired on a 22 season show compared to a 22 episode season to a 10 episode season, that is different. That is, you know, not as much work. However, that is just kind of what it is. And it's something I feel like, okay, and just embrace that. That's okay. So yeah, even though things of Hollywood are changing, there are many opportunities for people to have their own experiences and make good money through doing what they want. Now, I also completely understand that, like, that is, you know, that there's a lot of work that goes into getting those opportunities. There's a lot of elements out of your control, of course, and like you said, luck. But I guess I choose to think of it in the way that I just described, because I think that if I let myself kind of get into the like, oh, there's so much to have, but like not for me, you know, getting into the kind of negative down on myself mindset is not good and is easy to kind of like get sucked into that trap. And like, I definitely feel like, you know, oh, wow, what I'm doing here is not what I should be doing. This isn't where I want to be. This isn't like, I've been here for this much time. This is what I should have accomplished by now. But like my coach, Rachel, says, like, you have to be good to yourself. You have to like honor your own journey instead of trying to compare it to the other people's that you see, and you see other people succeeding. You have to be happy for those people and understand that their success does not mean your failure.
That's really good point, because I have the same problem as a podcaster. You know, when I see the biggest podcasts, they are literally getting millions of people listening to them. But most of them, then when I listen to the stats and I listen to podcast experts, most podcasts are like mine. They're very, very small, and I love it, so I'm going to keep doing it. And the ones that are, one of the ones that's huge that we mentioned before, but I've mentioned the show too many times, the biggest podcast in the world, which is on YouTube and anywhere, he's been doing it for 10 years now. So it's not like he just jumped in that pond and he was a success. He was already doing well because he was an actor, comedian, and did other stuff, had his own shows and stuff. But
this is still, Joe Rogan, right?
Yeah, Joe Rogan.
Oh.
Yeah, so it still took him years to get to to where he is, and part of that was, you know, going along 5 years, basically just screwing around on camera, and then going, oh, this is something that could grow. I should think about, you know, doing this better. And so it can take, I guess I'm just saying, it can take, don't stop whatever you're doing. It can take a while. Nobody knows how long or how short. You know, you hear so many stories about people who were discovered and put in their first movie when they weren't even an actor. And I just want to slap them. And but most of the real stories, and this seems to happen more and more. I'll see someone that is amazing, on a show that I'm watching, and I think, who the heck is this person? I've never seen him before. And like on Bloodline, I don't know if you ever saw Bloodline. It was You ever see that show?
No, I've never
Okay.
watched Bloodline.
It has some really, really good acting, and now one of the actors in it is now in everything. He's been in Star Wars, he's been in all this stuff, and I'm like, who the heck is this guy? Well, when you look him up, he was an Australian actor. He went to school for acting for years. He had tons of training. He had been in a whole lot of things before he got in something that big that kind of launched his career, and now he's on everything. But and I see that more and more where. There was a show called Hollywood. I think it was on Netflix. It was about old Hollywood. Did you see that? Yeah. So that was about how things happened a long, long time ago. And people could just stumble into it basically by just being good looking. And I'm not saying that that's not a prerequisite still. I mean, there's a lot of actors that are overly good looking and maybe that's part of why they're stars, but they also work their butts off. And worked really hard to get where they are. I think that's more common now is that actors have had a lot of training, have come out of a acting academy of some sort, have been, and also I think you need to be English or Australian. Isn't that right? You're from Australia, right?
No.
No.
Not at all. I mean, there is definitely like, oh, you're a British actor, you're probably way better than us. But I mean, like I said, that also happens with, oh, you live in Los Angeles. That means you're more serious than other people are about their career, and therefore better. Which maybe doesn't make sense because, yeah. But, woohoo. Whoopsie. But anyway, yeah, there are definitely stigmas about like who is good and who is not, or all that stuff. And I definitely do feel uninspired by stories of like I know Sofia Vergara. She was like discovered on a beach, like somebody saw her model now she. But and it's like, oh, that's wonderful, so cool. But there are stories of people who have climbed the ladder and like somebody, now I don't personally know this woman, but she was in the program that I'm in now. Her name is Angelica Washington, and she is now a character on the CW Stargirl series. And she was in the program that I'm in, and the head of the program, her name is Jonah Shao, and Jonah likes to tell Angelica's story because you can look at things that Angelica has done and it appears that she just kind of like was super successful from the start, but because the program and people within it got to know her and know her story, they know that she struggled for a while with like multiple jobs and lots of rejection and having been like let go of a project. I believe the story was something of like hired as a local in Atlanta. The part that she was going to play got cut at a certain point where they didn't still have to pay her day rate. So she spent her own money to get there and then didn't even get the pay that she was supposed to get. Lots of setbacks. And now you can see her on a show that has a lot of really good reviews, as I've seen. Like people like the show. People, I would like, I feel like sometimes like, oh, okay, am I like a fan of this thing before it was made? Those people are the ones whose opinions I tend to value more. Like the people who were already like into a particular franchise or, comic book, something. Whenever the thing is made, do those people like it? No? Interesting. Why? But it seems like those people do like this creation, this adaptation of this character, and therefore all the other characters in the CW show. So the point being, like, people who are successful that you see pop up, and all of a sudden, like, oh my God, they just have done so much, like they're in everything now, and they're doing a lot. And where did they come from? Like, yeah, a lot of people do have those sort of stories that are like, they had a hard time. They kept trying. They, Uzo Aduba from Orange is the New Black quit acting. She quit like a certain amount of time, like a very specific, like 40 minutes before her agent told her that she booked her role on Orange is the New Black, because she was like done with acting, and then she got her big break, and
Right.
that sort of thing. Like it happens. It is possible, and so gotta believe that it's also possible for me.
And you got to enjoy what you're doing. I mean, that's important too. You
Yeah.
can't be in it just to get the next part on Orange is the New Black, because that show's not even on anymore.
That's a good point. I actually crossed it off my list. Yeah,
yeah. You're not going to be on Lost. Give it up.
Yeah, that.
Oh, I just wanted to. His name is Ben Mendelsohn. That's the actor I was trying to remember from Bloodline. He's been in the latest Star Wars movie. He just pops up all the time, and he can play anything. But yeah, I thought, well, where did this guy come from? And of course, he had a really long struggle to get where he is now.
Yeah.
And now he's got every part in the world.
And also, what's kind of fun is you can definitely play that game with voiceover actors, like just like you mainly would know them from voiceover. You can look at like the IMDb or Wikipedia of one person, and like it's like, oh my God, they just explode with all of the stuff that they do, because like once you kind of like make it into that market, you start to work, and it's like what is that? The wheel, the cogs turn. I don't know. You set it in motion.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. And once people know that someone can do a certain thing, they tend to want to hire that person again. I mean, it's why we, like you were talking about actors that like to hire the same people over and over. I mean, directors. It totally makes sense. And I've been lucky enough to have that happen to me where, I mean, it's local. They're not big paying jobs, but directors who they like what I'm doing. So they want to put me in more stuff because they know, well, I'm going to show up and I can do it, So that totally makes sense to me. Like if an actor has certain skills, why wouldn't you use them again? That always has made a lot of sense to me.
And I'm sure that an element of why people would bring you back is because they like spending time with you.
Right. That's a big one in any acting, whether it's theater or film. They better like spending time with you. It's something that actors. I mean, I'm really surprised that actors that are famous for, being bad actors, as in not acting well on set. I'm really shocked that they get work, because it's just, there are so many talented people. You can't tell me you can't find someone else that could do that just as well. But I don't know.
No, I agree with, like, I always find it strange to, like, because I understand, oh, okay, this person, whoever that may be, oh, they're probably like famous. They probably have some cool. Oh, here comes. Okay.
Here's a kitty. All right.
Maybe oh, here now. I don't want you falling in the window. You're such a little noisy kitty. And I thought he was going to take a nap on my desk. He is. Maybe he will. Maybe he'll come back. Anyway, but yes, I think you do hear stories about like certain actors that you like would know the name of being bad on set, difficult to deal with. And I, on one hand, I'm like, okay, I understand, like maybe this person's name brings like, something to the marketing that somebody else maybe wouldn't. But I guess I think like, oh, well, there are so many, I would say, substitutes that have an equal amount of, buying power to the person who is deciding whether or not they want to go to that movie.
Right.
And
Right.
so I don't
That
know. It's
seems like it.
super weird to me too.
It's a little weird. On the other hand, I have to say, sometimes I hear about these stories, and the actor was maybe they bit someone's head off or something in the middle of just before a scene, and that somehow gets out there in the world, and this guy is terrible because I was on set and he bit my head off, and it's like,
Yeah.
but as an actor, as someone who's done that work and who sees how talented that person is, I can see where if they're deep into what they're trying to do, and someone breaks them out of that, and they, I'm sure they might have a reaction that they didn't mean to have. It just, they just react, and so there's that side of it too. It's like some actors who are basically people who are doing method acting. It can be extremely difficult, and you gotta. I can kind of understand. It seems like it's always the method actors that get a bad name. It's always people who are doing method stuff. Not that I'm against that at all.
I'm against method stuff because I guess like that Laurence Olivier quote to Dustin Hoffman. Yes, it's the story of Marathon Man, where he had to be like tortured and kept up all night for 3 days, and so he was like, I'm gonna do that, and he was being like, he was on set and was totally whacked out because he was experiencing it himself, and Laurence Olivier is sitting like drinking his tea and is like, it's called acting.
It's funny because that story is told in so many different ways. It's like it's attributed to so many different actors. Try acting.
And like,
but
I guess like as an actor who would be on the set with somebody who would be trying to method act, I mean, like, I guess I've been on not many sets. Like I always wonder, like, when is the moment that you say, oh, okay, I can method act? Like, no one's gonna be putting up with your shit when you are like just some random tiny actor who is like, no, I need to be treated in this way. Like, I don't know. I just don't think that is something that goes, oh wow, what a great actor. They go, oh wow, what a diva who needs so much given to him.
But yeah, see, that's where I think people get confused about method acting. They see the extremes of it. I mean, for one, if you look at the performance in Marathon Man, it worked. That's all I can say. Both sides worked. Both performances worked because they were doing what they were good at. They were doing what they were taught. And the method is. I just think people get very confused about the difference between staying up for 3 days and wanting to get your own clothes for a part, wanting to maybe meet police officers if you're going to play a police officer, things like that. Things are a little not so extreme because that's also method.
I was going to say, I don't even think I would consider that method. I think that would just be, to me, that would be just considered like research, or I mean, I guess the clothing thing, I can see what you're saying. I guess like, to me, a lot of the process of method seems like it's just an opportunity to behave in a way that is excusable only because it's technically not what you are doing. But I mean, can you name any female method actor? I don't think you can.
I can't. Actually, one of the people who created the method, one of the most famous acting teachers who started the acting studio, is a female. I think her name is now I'm forgetting her name, but the acting studio was started by a male and a female directors. Stella Adler. Yes, Stella Adler created the method, but she also made fun of actors who were extremists about it. I mean, she
Yeah.
was like, that's not necessarily what they're talking about. You know, it's a difference. It's
Definitely.
more about, I mean, you can take it to that extreme, definitely, but it's also about
But like,
research and about understanding who you are in a role. You know, that's method. That's,
and
I mean, yeah.
it's like,
She was-
should you take it to that extreme? Like that
right.
story of Jared Leto sending condoms to his castmates of Suicide Squad, and Viola Davis saying, like, if I did this, I would be fired because this isn't something that I could pool and be like, oh, it's just Viola getting into character. It's not a good. I don't know, like that.
Well, here's
sort of
interesting thing about that.
Yeah.
One, I totally agree that he was being an asshole, period, the end. I think he was being an asshole. Two, he wasn't famous enough, which is unfortunate. If Viola Davis did that, she probably would have got away with it because she has a bigger name than him. The same goes for the...
It just won an Oscar for Dallas Buyers Club. So, I mean, Jared Leto had been... I mean, I guess I don't know if he like wasn't famous because
I barely knew who he was. You know, I mean, famous compared to Viola Davis, compared to a Tom Hanks, compared to the Joker before him, who also was using the method and was supposedly a real great to be around on set. So, you know, it depends on who they are. I think that when you take it to that extreme, you're just you're not being real. You're not being fair to your other actors. Because I've worked with actors in the same production who have really different ways of working, and I guess I just believe that you can put real emotion in a part. That's my belief, and that if you don't, it's going to be a little. People aren't going to be as convinced, especially on camera. Other people are the opposite. They're like, no, you don't have to use real emotion. And I've seen both work. Like I've literally worked with actors that are basically faking it, and they're really good at it. You know, they're really good at it. So I think both ways work really well. But when you do things like that, you're still just being an a-hole. It's like you've got to have respect for not just actors, but everyone on a set, everyone in a production.
Oh, definitely. And I mean, like I know through being respectful of all of the, like, in particularly on like sets where there are many more people on the crew, like some people kind of make the mistake, I suppose I could say, the mistake of being like, oh, the only people who are important on this set are the people with the higher titles. And those are the people that I need to, those are the ones I need to talk to. Those are the ones I need to suck up to, basically. But now, first off, like a lot of those people are going to be more active while you are shooting. So they probably aren't going to be like able to do the chit chat, fun, let's network conveniently while we're here together thing. But also, like, a lot of the people who are in smaller roles on the crew don't want to always be there. Slash maybe the people in smaller roles on the crew, they're friends. They have friends. They have people that make things too. And if you can become like, if you are remembered for being kind and like prepared and fun to be around, all that good stuff, and you're not like, oh, I'm gonna like I have to try to like make this impression, but you just kind of, like it's like effortless. You just kind of do because you are kind, because you did prepare, because you just aren't being an asshole, that sort of a thing. It can plant seeds that you might find grow into something you didn't expect. I've definitely had opportunities just directly offered to me because I got along with somebody on a crew who, maybe they weren't like the head honcho, but they have people that they're friends with. They participated in something else. And it's helpful in a way to consider, like, hey, you know, like, you don't know who is the person who could be, you know, the one person that believes in you enough to make some big change in your life. And it's like a cliche to hear that, but like, and it's true. And so instead of, you know, it's a reason to go through life and be on your, like, anytime you're working with other people, it's a reason to just be pleasant to everybody that you meet, as long as they're pleasant to you too.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
hopefully they're pleasant to you too. But yeah, I guess like just the philosophy of why it's good to be kind to other people. Yeah, hopefully that is sound logic, I think.
I think it's important to be kind to other people all the time. I say it at the end of my show, every single show. But I mean, everyone whether on a set is really working incredibly hard. And so why do you want to make it harder for them? And that's why I don't understand where certain really big name actors, and they do tend to be method actors, give people such a hard time. I'm always amazed about that, because but I also think that's why Tom Hanks works so much, because
enjoy him.
People enjoy him. He's known to be one of the nicest people around, so they want to work with him. I mean, I've heard the same thing about Tom Cruise, that he's really good with people he's working with. You know, I've seen him in enough movies, but I've heard that he's a really good person to work with.
I've read, like, I remember a while ago reading an article that was just like, apparently Tom Cruise is like really nice. And it was just like a bunch of things that Tom Cruise has done for people that he's been on sets with that were just like really generous. And it was like, interesting. Okay. Didn't know that. But yeah, like I can understand why people would want to, I mean, like, yes, of course, like they have the name behind them, but like they probably did get that name known by being pleasant to be with. And therefore,
probably starting out. Yeah.
That cycle of like, oh, hey, we still want to work with Tom Hanks. Like, he's great. Let's like make things that he'll possibly be interested in. And I mean, I guess a partner he's worked with a lot is Steven Spielberg. So that makes sense. Oh, that guy, whatever.
It's true. I mean, he kind of got in good with Spielberg and Ron Howard, and that's but done. What else you need?
Basically.
Those guys make enough movies.
It's interesting to see that, like, of course, the bigger markets are going to have different elements of like how things work, and you've got to like kind of learn those new things that are in place, that are different from the smaller ones. But like it is, I think it should be like a positive to see the like small things that you experience in like smaller sets, smaller friendship circles, we'll say, you can see reflected in the more well-known professional things too. So it's like, hey, this is real. These are just people who are just similar to me in that they like their friends, are similar to me in that they like when people are prepared and are good to work with, and you know, all that good stuff. And I find that like comforting to think like, hey, you know what? That means that can happen to me too.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is where I was saying earlier about how sets seem to be the same at any level, because you hear all kinds of stories about these big Hollywood movies and all this stuff that happens. This person's being a diva and da. I mean, the difference is money for sure, but I've seen just as much bad behavior on little sets that are like, what are you doing? You know, I see the same kind of behavior everywhere, which is why I think it's bizarre. I mean, and especially in small theater communities, you'll get
It's so
the
weird.
weirdest stuff, and
remember-
you're just thinking, "What are you doing? This is just for fun. You're not even getting paid for doing this. Would you settle down?" You know what?
A friend told me, pardon me, about a person who was having a meltdown, I guess, on set, and they were like, "I don't deserve to be treated like this. I have an IMDb page," and
Oh,
that was like,
Jesus.
"Oh,
Ooh, that's like saying I have a
Like-
YouTube channel.
yeah." I was gonna say, I guess if somebody listening maybe doesn't understand, it's very easy to get an IMDb page. You could probably get one too if you have a friend that has a pro account. Just know that. Like a friend of mine just helped me add a film I made to IMDb, and I just like literally wrote all the credits out. Was like, here you go. Here's all the information. Go forward. And now my boyfriend has an IMDb page because he helped on the set. So and he
Oh, okay,
like
sure. So he has a credit.
yes, so he has an IMDb page. I was like, okay, cool.
Yeah,
I mean,
I've had an IMDb page from a long time ago because one movie I was in said, we're putting this up on IMDb. So I thought, okay, and I put a couple things up there, which I don't know if they're there anymore because if you don't have your pro account, anyway, a lot. They should be there, but some movies popped up that I didn't know. Like I was surprised because the level of what we were doing, but they still were able to submit it. I think it's gotten easier to submit to IMDb because I know when I first kind of heard about it, knew about it, it had to have a certain amount of distribution or something. Oh, it had to be in festivals. So they must have relaxed that a little because there are credits up there that I wouldn't never have thought had made it there.
I know that you just have to prove that it exists.
Okay.
So that means you can just share the link to the video, and that can be enough.
Wow.
Festival, like official festival lineup websites, stuff like that. Those are also qualifying to put you on IMDb, but you don't need it to get there. Yeah, I remember. I think the first, maybe the first credit that I got on IMDb was for something that I was like, oh, why? Okay, interesting. Like, and I at the time I was like, oh wow, this is cool. But and then like you kind of go like, oh wow, everybody can kind of
like anyone I look up, it's on there. Oh look, they're on.
I always say it's a Wikipedia. That is what shows that you have achieved something, because not everybody gets a Wikipedia page.
That's for sure.
A Wikipedia with a picture. That's the other part.
That's the big time. That's the big time.
I mean, it's silly, but it's true in a way. But yes, and now this is making me think like, oh, I need to put more pictures on my own IMDb. I have like, I don't know. I guess I don't always consider it because I'm like, hey, everybody has this. Do any people really I mean, yes, they do, but.
Oh yeah, everyone looks.
Mean,
except I didn't actually look for this podcast. For a lot of people, I do. I forgot, but you have a really good website. That's the word I'm looking for. Duh. You have a really good website. I thought because not many people are very good at making websites or make one at all, and you have a lot of it's one of my questions. How often, and this is good for any actor listening, how often do you get headshots? You seem to have a lot of them, but that doesn't mean you get them that often.
Interesting, because see, like I feel like I don't necessarily have a lot of headshots. So curious that you say that. How often? I would say now this is something that the program I'm in is like, maybe try to think about it a little differently. So I'll say like, I think the last headshots I got were like last year. Prior to that would be maybe like 3 years. But one of our coaches in the program, he's not like my coach, but the program has things where people like interact with each other. So, hey, I've heard of him. But he's like, think of your branding, your headshots as maybe more malleable than like, oh, I'm going to go spend like, $1,000 doing headshots and I'm going to be attached to them forever, instead of like, oh, I'm going to like get headshots every so often. And it's okay if I change them, if that makes sense. Because I definitely I want to get some different headshots that are maybe a little more instead of thinking of headshots as like, oh, this is just like a pretty picture of me, thinking of it as like, and I do have some of these, but thinking of them as like, this is like the type of character that I would be with, like, I mean, the one that you see when you log on to my website, I feel is very me, because it's like, I'm wearing my glasses and I'm wearing like a character tee, and that's like not your traditional headshot attire. I also took some headshots in a like gray tank top with like messy hair to try to like attempting to have the more like survival kind of film look, because I have been cast most of my professional experience has been in like dramatic stuff. So trying to like kind of match that, like, oh, what have I been cast in? This is what my headshot looks like because of that. This is like the type of thing I go out for. That sort of pairing. So the next ones, I'm going to continue into that, like to lean in that direction, getting perhaps a more like studious one that doesn't necessarily look quirky, but more like, maybe like an office worker, for example. And then more like girl next door kind of a thing. Stuff like that. There's a lot of ways that anybody listening who is an actor who's trying to like, get more work, I would suggest that thinking of a headshot instead of like as this is a pretty picture of me, thinking of like, how can I like portray myself to the person looking at this for a second and make them like stop on me, because there's something about that shot that is more specific to what I submitted it for.
Oh, I see what you're saying. It makes sense. I've heard that for 20 years, actually. I've always heard that I don't do them that often, because I also had someone say, does it still look like you? Well, yeah. Okay. Then it's good. And
that's definitely true
I
too.
think that's important. But what you're saying is also, I mean, you're going to send a different headshot to different roles. You need to have some choices, I guess, is what I mean.
Also,
in
like
most
if
cases.
it does, I also totally agree. If it like looks like you still, I mean, like some of those headshots on there are like older, but I mean, I think they still look like me.
Yeah, they still look like you. Well,
it's gonna be there.
Yeah, it's hard to tell. That's why that's why I was curious, because it is hard to tell when they were taken, and that's also the sign of someone taking a good headshot. I mean, that's the other important thing about headshots. You want someone who does headshots to take them, or a portrait photographer, because they need to know how to make it look good enough that the person does stop. You get a second or two, so even yes, it's got to be the right headshot for that part, but it also has to be good enough that they're just not going to keep flipping through them, which is what they do, unfortunately.
Yeah, something I say to people if like we're discussing this is like, well, first, like, you obviously don't make it look like if you see evidence of the photographer basically taking what looks like a senior photo, like, you don't want that. Like, you don't want it to look like this is like a picture in your book, because that's weird. But like, something that helped me plan for the most recent headshots I did was looking at the like other headshots of actors who were similar to me and who I found through using IMDb Pro to see that like they booked something, you know, like, okay, that's how I even came across your name. So let's look at your Actors Access and see what headshots you have and see like, you know, okay, so this is what's working for this girl. And so I'll like pull that and keep it somewhere and make what we call like a headshot blueprint and kind of like, you know, plan like, okay, if I want to have like when I was saying like a rugged, like action fighty zombie apocalypse. I mean, that's a lot of description for if anybody would look at this headshot, be like, oh wow, this is like not as specific as what I put. So like you'll see, like I have like a black strap on this part. I wanted it to look like I had something slung on my back. It's like very minimal, but it's just like it's supposed to be just a small thing that would make you, if you saw it and be like, oh, that's like, you know, hold on it for a little longer. Mm-hmm. The muted colors, the expression in the face, the type of hair, like being not at like looking like, I guess kind of like now, which is, this is just what my hair looks like, without like doing anything to it. The amount of makeup being like minimal, very, very minimal. The background being, well, obviously like blurry, but it looks like I'm somewhere and not in like a studio.
Right. Right.
So yeah, it's just like little things like that. Like I was helping a friend the other day. We were playing D&D, but we also were talking about some actors things. And she really wants to like get into like period pieces. And so I was like, okay, I'm gonna like look at your headshots. And so I said, you need to take a headshot, like at some point, have headshots that look like that. So I went and pulled some pictures of friends that I knew who had those. But a general thing is like, you know, the fabric that you have is like probably going to be lacy. It's probably going to come up to your neck, just like more conservative in look. You're probably going to have your hair either pulled up in a like very loose way or down and look done in, you know, like professional lady kind of like Downton Abbey way. I don't know. And then like maybe no makeup at all. Maybe just like a little bit of lip stuff and a little bit of eyebrow stuff. But like, you know, very like you just kind of say, okay, like, and it's not like you're like, oh, I'm gonna wear like a Elizabethan poofy shirt thing. I mean, you know, you don't have to be like that. It's not about like being the literal character. It's just about like, oh, this is my headshot where I appear to be, you know, from a different time, and I submit it when I see something like that. But when I see something that's more standard character in their teens, whatever, then I do this one. You know, it's just about having like a small selection of options that kind of tailor you more to what they are looking for. So when they are looking at all these people, they see somebody that kind of looks a little more like maybe what they had in their head, instead of like, oh, here's this girl like posing in a red t-shirt and she's like, hey, and now I have to like visualize what she would be like as this character. Maybe they'll take the time to do that, but maybe they won't. So help them.
Oh yeah, well yeah, of course, you want to help them as much as possible. When I was doing headshots last, which it's been a while now, but I started looking at okay, what are the actors I really like doing these days? Because headshots do change. That's something I don't know if people are new to acting or they haven't done a lot of headshots. The style changes every 5 years or so, which is an odd thing. A long time ago when I was a young actor, black and white was it. Every headshot was black and white. And then there was a thing about what background, like what color should the background be. I think now it's a little more open, but the style does change as to what's kind of acceptable and what people are going to look at or not. But so I was looking at, so what do the professionals do? What do people, you know, like the big stars, what do their headshot look like? They don't do them anymore.
Oh yeah.
They don't do them anymore. It's all pictures just from, standing in front of on a red carpet is a big one. And yeah, it's all kind of candid shots is what they is their headshot now, which I thought was interesting.
I get that.
No more of that. Oh, totally.
In a way, but yeah, when it comes to like, people expect this type of background, and like, I don't know, I've kind of been taught to like try to not like care about that sort of thing. Like, I guess if like there is all of a sudden like we went black and white, then like, you probably don't have your headshots printed out anymore. You probably have them online, and you probably are submitting them in that way. Just make it black and white.
That's probably not going to happen again.
Probably not.
Not so much.
I feel like if there was like, I do think that was a little strange to be like, we prefer black and white. Like, why would you prefer that and not prefer to see, I don't know, the colors just seems like would be something you would want over.
But I always thought that was really bizarre but it was long before your time. But it's like the standard was black and white. Like, you got black and white headshots, but that was back in the day when you did print them out. Yeah. And I think part of it, I mean, I could see that maybe some of it was they don't want to be distracted by lighting, and they don't want to like be distracted by overlit stuff. Yeah. And now, you never know. I've asked a couple of directors about headshots, and all they'll tell me is yours are fine. I mean, I don't get a lot of feedback, really.
I would say like, if you look like what the picture looks like, and if the picture looks like it was taken by a person that knew how to take a picture, who cares what the background looks like then? As long as there's no one else in the background, or I don't know, that sort of weird thing. But like, I mean, I would say like, some people feel like, oh yeah, I'm gonna like do the thing that's like, I'm gonna try to get noticed. I'm gonna like put my hands in it. I'm like, I don't know, maybe that's not nice, but besides for that, yeah, I feel like it's not as troublesome as maybe it once was. I mean, and especially because like you probably more often than having the physical copy, somebody probably has already seen your headshot through whatever digital thing you learned about a casting call from. So, then you already know that your headshot passed the test.
Well, that's true. Yeah, that's definitely true.
Here you go. And also, I feel like a lot of people don't want you to print them and bring them because they're like, we already have it on the internet. And I'm like, less work for me, thanks.
Absolutely. That's one I've never been sure about. I've had every like acting coach, advisor person I've heard still to this day says, don't show up without your headshot. But if you show up with it, you don't have to give it to them. I mean, that's the other thing. If you show up to an audition and you don't have it and they're asking for it, well, then you're going to look like an idiot. But if they are asking for it, you really should have it with you. That's kind of my thing now.
It's nice to have it with you. I think that's always good to just, like have a bag that you can keep crap in. But I guess that's also something you can like just like ask your agent or ask the people, if you don't have an agent, what they do expect from you at the callback or audition itself. Like, do you expect that? Do you expect like do you want me to be off book, or can I hold sides in my hand? Or I don't know, can I use a cell phone for the prop? Like, if you like feel uncomfortable with something, you can just be like, hey, I'm just gonna ask, because I've found that if you like, I was in a small general meeting with her name is Laura Otten. She is an assistant or a casting associate, not assistant, my bad, associate to Wendy O'Brien casting. And she so a lot of comedy things. And they're very like kind people. And Laura is super sweet and very just like definitely makes you feel like, wow, people in Hollywood, maybe they aren't like that scary person that I learned about when I was a kid. Maybe they're like
right.
kind like her. But Laura was like, you know, it's always good to ask. Just ask me, because I would rather you ask about the thing that you do not know about or the thing that is troubling you than showing up and doing some like and not having the thing that you were supposed to have, or like not expecting something else and it throwing you off your game. You know, like they're on your side essentially. So it's nice to feel like, oh, hey, they're on my side. They don't want me to suck. They want me to solve the casting problem. So they want me to do well. And I'm going to help myself do well by being prepared.
No, that's perfect. I was, you took the words right out of my mouth. I was actually going to put that in there. They want to solve the casting problem. They're there to cast somebody. If it's you, they're done. They can go home. So it's I think that's always a good thing to tell people about auditions. Is they're trying to solve that problem. They're trying to finish the auditions. And if you go, you know, if you go in thinking, well, I'm the solution, it's helpful. You know, it definitely calms the nerves. Yeah.
And I mean, it's a way to like you were saying, you know, you said you had an audition coming up, and it's like I think I early on made friends with the idea of like, I have to go to auditions, because I was like, there are a lot of people who are like, I hate auditions. I hate going, they make me nervous. I don't like, and it's like, yeah, I mean, I guess I don't love them, but I recognize that they're like a pretty common thing I'm going to be experiencing for perhaps the rest of my life. I mean, I don't know. People still get asked to audition for things, even when they're really famous and stuff. So hey, you know, it's like make friends with it, be okay with that, and then like also then like the more you do it, then you're just like, you know, flexing the muscle. You're practicing, you're exercising it, and you're getting more comfortable with that. And then, you know, it makes it like not a big deal. And I think it's like I've been in audition rooms like as the person auditor, maybe we'll say, who and like some people are like, oh yeah, I'm great at auditions, so I'm gonna come in and be all like cocky and, you know, like that sort of attitude that's like, this doesn't like, I don't really like, I don't know that, like, I guess what I'm trying to get at is like, don't go to the extreme of like, I love auditions.
I've heard, and if you're overconfident coming in and you've already made all the choices, that doesn't leave them anything. Like I've heard that specifically from directors. If you walk in thinking, I've got this down and this is how I'm going to do it, and you forget that if they like you, they're going to give you some direction to see if you'll take it. So, you know, you kind of got to remember that too, that you've got to be a bit flexible. I definitely love auditioning personally, because a few years back, I realized, and for one, I usually have fun when I get to an audition. I'm always very nervous going to an audition. The one I have now is self-tape. That's even harder, because I have to go through all my own stuff and decide, you know, well, which one of these things is worth sending out. So I always thought that's harder. But I just love the auditioning is still acting to me. It's still a chance to perform, and you know, as an actor, I do have an ego, so I like to perform. That's a big part of it, and auditioning is that. And not only, I usually learn at auditions too. I mean, if it's more than a line in a commercial, then you know, you learn something. And because there's most of the time there's experienced people that you're auditioning for, so it's a chance to learn more about what you're doing.
Yeah, one of the events that Career Activate put on, it's called a mastermind. It's kind of like a big workshop day. There's an element to it of like some guest speaker, and Susan Bluestein came during my first one. She is a casting director who most notably works on CSI, NCIS. Yes.
Same thing, right? Same?
You know, it's one of those shows.
I don't know the difference. I mean, I forget. I started, yeah.
But anyway, she was saying how like people maybe like in the past it was more like, you know, there was an element of like, okay, I go into the audition and I'm going to expect to get like the direction and stuff. And she said now she feels like very much more often than not, especially for a part that maybe isn't as big as, you know, a series regular or something like that. They do want you to come in with your part basically like super ready to go. And like, of course, they might be giving you some sort of direction or adjustment just to, like you said, like see how you are at adapting to what somebody asks of you. But like, they also just like want to know that you can do it without being adjusted and without having any direction given to you. Because like, I mean, like you were describing on like a commercial set. And I mean, I experienced this a lot when we did the murder show. Like a lot of times things are really just fast and the director isn't even giving direction. They're more so directing their crew members and not so much the actors. And what you do, you get maybe like 2 takes and that's the end. So they are like, okay, what would you do if you did it right now? Great. That sort of element of like, we don't want to feel like you need to be brought to like the standard that we're hoping for. If you're here,
Oh, no, I just meant you don't be too like locked into, I'm going to do it this way no matter what they say. It's, you know, you just have to have some flexibility left in you at you know, when you're auditioning.
I'm like
Definitely.
Worried right now.
I've never actually, in my commercials, I've never auditioned. It's always been, we're doing a commercial show up here. So I haven't actually done that audition process for commercials or industrial. Same thing, industrial stuff. They look at my pictures and resume and go, yeah, you can say lines. Come do this.
Well, a lot of commercial auditions are more about what you can like improvise, and improvise sounds very generous to like, by improvise I don't mean like hey, can you be like funny and like make me like do, you know, that sort of type of improv. No, it's more like, can you look like you're like related to this person and have like a cookout with them? And because like a lot of commercials aren't about like, some, you know, obviously you talk in some, but in a lot you're not talking, you're just kind of behaving and existing and like watching TV with your friends, or you know, like doing things that the commercial has a voiceover to do the talking for. Like maybe picture a drug commercial and like all that B-roll. Oh my gosh.
What was that? Uh-oh. You all right?
Oh, something just, I think I have a package or something.
Oh, I thought it was your cat.
Did you see my thing bounce?
Yeah, I heard. Yeah. I thought you had a cat there.
I thought it sounded like somebody like hit into fell down. That's why I'm saying it was probably a package, but holy cow.
Let's hope so. Let's hope someone didn't fall against your door.
Every time they're gone. Every time I'm like, oh, I like look at my Fitbit to see what my heart rate went to, because I'm like, oh no,
wow, that's
I got
funny.
scared. I mean, it's not like.
Well, hey, I have kept you on for quite a while. I just noticed. I just looked at the clock. I just realized we've been going for a bit, so I should probably wrap this up and let you get back to your day.
Surprised you. Zapped us away from our conversation. I mean, it definitely surprised me too. I'm very sorry.
No, that's quite all right. That's okay. It was good.
I thought it was an earthquake, and that's why I was scared.
Oh yeah, I've experienced. Yeah, I was in the biggest earthquake in the last 20 years when I lived in LA. So,
God.
yeah. The Northridge quake, I was down there when that happened. It was terrifying. Yeah, it was really scary.
I've had 3 since I've been here, and they haven't been as terrifying as they could be, obviously. I guess, I mean, like, nothing happened.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing fell. No one got hurt. They're definitely very sea-sickening. Like, I don't like that part. But they're also pretty freaky of like, oh God, is this like where I'm suddenly in like a disaster movie?
Yeah, see, I didn't worry. When I first moved to LA, I didn't. Yeah. I first moved there, I didn't worry about them at all. We had like a 3-point and a 4-point. I had been through 2 or 3, and they were very small. And it was like, oh, I think we had an earthquake, which actually happens here too. We have small ones. But then I was in the one that was a 7.2 or something. Now I'm afraid at any time there's the smallest. And then it also had aftershocks for about a day and a half or 2 days. And the aftershocks were bigger than any other earthquake I'd been in. That was not, and that was a disaster movie. There were things exploding, dogs running crazy because all the dogs just run. All the cars stop. That's a scary thing in LA. It's probably, it's happened now in the last several months. All the traffic stops. That's just not a good thing when you live in Los Angeles. It's really weird. Yeah, it's really bizarre. Eerie.
Oh my God. Well,
yeah.
Yes, on that delightful note of talking about when we felt our lives were at stake.
Yeah. Yeah, so let me just tell you, you've been listening to Were You Still Talking? This is Joel Albrecht, and on the show today, I had April Yanko, and you can find her website at, what is it, aprilyanko.com?
Yes, APRYANKO.
There you go. So you can find out a lot more about her. If 2 hours wasn't enough, which I'm sure it wasn't, then check out her website and all the other stuff. She's got stuff everywhere, YouTube and Instagram, if you've ever heard of that. All these cool stuff.
You're making me sound very cool.
Well, that's my job. So, all right. So thanks for listening. And as I always say, be good to each other. And my new idea is be good to yourself, because I know what it's like out there. I'm living it too. Thanks for listening.